pressing it and then.
You are live.
Am I live? Are we live?
I think we're live.
I don't know, man.
This is the first time we've ever been live. If anyone can hear me, you're experiencing a really big deal. This is a huge deal. Welcome to the Arseholics podcast. I have no idea how many people are listening. It may just be one. It might just be my nephew. And if it is way past your bedtime. I'm convinced of it. But look, we're really happy to be here. This is something we're trying out new. It's the first time we're using StreamYard. So I'm really sorry if this feels like an incredibly unstructured episode. I mean, we saved this live stream for a special occasion. It's obviously the first time we've lost this season. Yeah, so whoever's tuning in is in for a treat. Look, you got me, Raj. I'm sure you can see me. You've got Mize and Aaron with me. Hello, boys.
Hello, mate.
Evening. All right.
Yeah, good. It feels weird. So many different things going on right now. Firstly, the live stream, but also reflecting on a defeat. We've not been used to that this season, have we? We've been really, really lucky to be really super positive after every game and say and just indulge in so many good things. Indulge in how Saliba's going to be the greatest player in the universe, and indulge in how Gabriel Jesus has been the signing of the summer or whatever. But it's probably going to be a little bit of a different vibe today in this pod, right, boys? Because ultimately, when you do lose, it's not necessarily like it's all doom and gloom, but it does warrant trying to understand why you did lose, and often that means that things aren't always necessarily as rosy as they as you thought it to be. But let's figure out if that really is the case. I mean, it's been about how long? Over 24 hours. We played yesterday, and obviously, had we recorded on the whistle like we sometimes do, I think there would have been a lot of raw emotion because there were some things that didn't really go in our favor. But after about a day's worth of mulling on it, boys, how do you guys feel? Mize, what's the overriding feeling that you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, mate, I think I'm not. I was going to talk about some of the conversations I've had with United fans post-match, which I don't know if we want to get into because I could go on a bit of a rant about it. But look, in terms of,
I mean,
we could do that. Maybe we could do it after. I mean, look, in terms of Arsenal and in terms of how we played, the performance we put in, how we turned up for the game. I said this to you guys when we were messaging about it. We've seen many times in the recent past, where Arsenal teams have turned up to some of the top 4, top 6 teams, gone away and just capitulated. And yeah, Raj, made a good point. It hasn't really happened recently under Arteta, but it was really good to see. It was really refreshing to see us just come into the game completely on it, as it were, and really give United a good go. And overriding feeling is, disappointing that we didn't come away with some sort of result. I think we could have easily won that game on another day. But pretty proud, to be honest. Pretty proud of the performance overall. Pretty proud of a lot of the good things that we did, and overall, I'm pretty enthusiastic and positive for the rest of the season because, like I say, there's a lot to take from the game, and I feel like if we carry on approaching games in that same way and playing, putting those sorts of performances in, especially in the big games, I can't really see. I see us winning more games than we lose, basically. And I think, performance-wise, it was very, very good. It was just, unfortunately, a couple of moments that really, really cost us.
Before I go to Aaron for your thoughts, you said, Mize, you see us winning more games than than not effectively. What's that effect? And do you mean that in the context of the big games? Do you see us winning more big games than before if we play in this way, or do you refer to that as a general point throughout the season?
I was thinking about this after the game, or this morning actually, and I was thinking, okay, obviously we've got all of the big grounds, big games to come. Etihad, Anfield, and I sort of put City away and Liverpool away in a slightly different category. But when I'm thinking about kind of what happened at White Hart Lane last season, the performance yesterday gives me a lot more confidence going into, say, Spurs away, whenever that is. I think that's sort of early next year, and obviously, the kind of circumstances that might surround that game at the time, or when the match comes around, could be very, very different. But when I'm thinking of sort of Stamford Bridge, White Hart Lane or Tottenham, Tottenham away, I'm sort of thinking that performance should give them a lot more confidence. And I think it's about time Arsenal really do. Yeah, Arsenal really should be. When you see that table, like the top 6 table, head-to-head table, and you see Arsenal normally down the bottom or not doing that great. I think last season we were okay because our home performances were a little bit better, or home results were a little bit better, and obviously we beat Chelsea and stuff. But I think generally we've never really been. I can't remember the last time we were sort of at the top of that table. So I'm very much hopeful that, like I say, confidence that we should take from the performance of that game should put us in good stead for the big ones coming up.
Aaron, and before I go to you, I just want to make a massive announcement. We've got our first ever comment. We've got our first ever comment, and it's from Nish, and he says, "Hello, boys." Respect, man. You've made history, Nish. I appreciate you. I appreciate a Liverpool fan. To be honest, like actually, my nephew, he said he's going to listen to. I don't know if he's listening. He's a Liverpool fan as well, so maybe we've got a little niche here, catering to the Liverpool fan base.
Rog, do you want some live stats? I don't know if you can see this yourself. I can see this. So we have one person watching us live on Facebook. One person, I think, watching us on Twitch, which is unreal because I just set up the account like yesterday.
And I don't even know what Twitch is.
And 5 people watching us on YouTube.
Oh my
God. Mate, we've got 7 people now. So that's
okay. Let's be clear about it. So Gemma said she was going to watch on her phone and iPad.
Okay.
All right.
So 2 of that is the same person.
Let me just message Ash to tell her to join.
Anyway, Aaron, going to you, and just echoing stuff that Mai said. I mean, if we look, let's just before we get your thoughts, let's just flick to the stat because the stats are quite compelling. Because usually, right, usually in a game of football that you lose, there's generally at least one stat other than goals that indicates that you perhaps weren't the better side. And I don't want to make that as a loaded comment because I don't want to start this pod as if we are going to moan and groan and say that we were the better side and we got robbed. I don't want to do that. But let's just say what the stats say themselves, right? The stats basically say that we overwhelmed possession, 60%, 61% of possession away from home at Old Trafford. That's a lot of possession at Old Trafford. We had 16 shots versus United's 10. Crucially, we didn't actually get that many on target. We only got 3 on target versus 6 from United. I have seen contradictory expected goals because I think that's important. I think with this, right, expected goals is a stat which actually gives you context. And most websites I've seen are showing a another a comment from a United fan. All right, Nick, how's it going? You got the comment. I was like, oh my God, we're learning it. That's amazing. Well, how did you do that? That's amazing.
Unreal.
Seriously. I don't know.
It's like we've just discovered the internet or something.
Honestly, it's worth watching this episode purely to see 3 grown men be fascinated about the internet. This is mad.
People who haven't listened to us on audio are going to be really confused.
Yeah, they really
are.
It's going to be such a pointless audience listening. Anyway, so the last I was going to say expected goals. The only thing that gives real context, right? Because as I said, the problem, and we saw this with the Palace game when we played Palace away, right? Possession stats can be very misleading. So at the moment, the possession stats for this game show Arsenal, very well ahead in possession. But at the end of the day, when you are chasing games, the teams that are chasing tends to get more of the possession. The team that are defending a lead tend to sit back. These things can be misleading, right? So, but the expected goal is interesting because most places are reporting the expected goals as 1.52 for Arsenal, 1.47 for United. I've seen one place report it with Man United having an expected goals of 2 versus Arsenal about 1.5. Whatever the case, what it basically says is that United were clinical, which is what you need to be in big games, and Arsenal were just not. But Aaron, and all those stats taken into context. There's my nephew. Hello, now go to sleep, mate. Go to sleep, Ethan. Anyway. Someone's talking about Phil Mitchell.
That's my cousin.
It's your cousin. Oh my God, it's like a proper family affair. Anyway, mate. Sorry, Aaron, give me your thoughts, right, on that. Stats say Arsenal were the better side, dominant, but just not clinical. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, basically. I don't really have much more to add. I mean, I think we just got done 3 times with 3 clinical moments, and we just didn't do enough to to trouble them. Really, I mean, like we had lots of possession.
Why did we get done? Why did we get done 3 times? It's three effectively identical goals in many ways. We got cut open. We've not been cut open this season. There was the one goal against Leeds where, against Leicester, where kind of went through Ramsdale's legs. Every other goal that we conceded this season has been nothing to do with defensive organisation or tactics. This time we got dissected 3 times, cut down the middle, with our what's been our first choice back 5, this season. Well, why'd that happen?
I think one was the absence of Thomas Partey. Like Lokonga, whilst he wasn't at fault, you kind of just anticipate positionally Partey to just be in better areas to affect the game. And I just thought there were just a couple of moments where we're a bit not unlucky, but those fine margins didn't go away, right? Like the one thing that really sticks out to me was when I think it was the second goal where when Gabriel takes him, fouls him, right? And the referee plays advantage, right? Like 9 times out of 10.
First goal, I think that was.
The first goal?
Yeah.
So the first goal, like 9 times out of 10, Gabriel properly fouls him and just takes him out. And that ball isn't even making its way through. Or the referee is just like incompetent and doesn't play advantage. But unfortunately, like Gabriel made the foul, the ball ran to the right man. The referee was then played a good advantage, and then United executed, and it fell to Anthony. And
well, it was a good little pass from Rashford, I think, right? Was it Rashford?
It was a very good move.
It was a really good, really good pass.
It's just like it was everything that could go right for United, and those three goals went right for them, right? And that's fair. Like that happens. And we just didn't get that bit of luck anywhere in their box. And I think that was kind of the difference in these big games. It's just fine margins. We set up with a game plan. United came on with their game plan, and I was surprised because I was impressed with how quickly United countered. They some of the passes in the build up to their goals were really good. Like that Fernandes pass, that was good. There was an Eriksen pass for their second or third that was really good. They just got everything right, and we didn't.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's basically we talked about in one of our last episodes. We talked about how slightly bullishly, slightly kind of sitting on our high horse a little bit because we won loads of games. We were talking about how Ten Hag needs to watch Arteta and take some lessons from what Arsenal done. In fairness, he did, right? What seems very clear to me at the moment. They did it against Liverpool as well. Ten Hag's basically said, right, I'm just starting off on this project. And I want to play a certain way, but I'm not going to be able to do that right now, right? It seems like after the first 2 defeats, he's just gone, I'm going to need to play a system that's going to get us through for a while. And that is basically a counter-attacking smash and grab type outfit. And he probably feels he's got the tools to do that because he's got some really fast wingers. So it was kind of something out of the Ollie era as well, because Ollie used to do it in the big games as well. And he's essentially done that. And like you say, I find it might have seemed surprising how quickly they broke, but that was their game plan. At Old Trafford to basically say, we're playing one of our historic big rivals. If we go toe-to-toe with Arsenal, we'll lose. We can't play them for possession right now. That actually takes a lot of guts to do that, right? To just accept that. And he did that. He conceded possession at Old Trafford to Arsenal and basically went, let's try and hit him on the break, and did it 3 times. So as much as Aaron and it's maybe surprising that they finished it, is it just a case where they just had a plan, they executed it really well, and we just did not execute ours?
Yeah. But then, on another day, we are a bit more clinical and create 1 or 2 more chances. We get a little bit of luck, and Man United don't score on all 3 of their counters, and we probably win that 2-1, 3-1, or something like that. And I don't know if I'm more annoyed about our lack of creating something in the box, or just how poorly we defended all 3 of those counter attacks.
Do you really think that we didn't create in the box, Aaron?
Well, how many shots did we actually have?
We had 3 on target, and I think it said we had 16 attempts.
We had I think we played well, but I thought Jesus, Saka, both of them had really good games. But if you look back on those big moments, there was a lot of we created a lot of half chances before, the final ball was lacking, or we got into the box, and then we had a lot of touches in the box. I felt, but we just didn't. I don't remember De Gea making that many saves.
No, it's a fair point.
I think, and I just think we weren't. Maybe we still have a little bit of a way to go to be a bit more clinical and like we're getting in loads of dangerous positions, but we're not doing anything with it. And that's a huge improvement on what we were doing last time, because last season we weren't even getting into the box, right? So, but in these big games, you're not going to get 4 or 5 chances. Like, like the first half against Villa, we had 10 chances or something. We scored 1. Against Man United, who are have good defenders, you're not going to get that number of chances. And like we were talking on WhatsApp, that Odegaard chance was big because you have to take these clear-cut chances when they come, because United are going to defend deep and they're going to counter. And United got 3 chances, they scored 3 goals. We probably had a similar amount of chances, and we walk away with 1 and we lose the game.
Yeah, you talk about being clinical in the big games and chances not happening that much. It would be remiss of us not to talk about this incident. So arguably the best finish of the match was from Gabriel Martinelli, who at this stage of the game, I thought it was super interesting what was going on. It really felt to me that Arsenal and Arteta basically said the team, they're gonna come out in the first 5 or 10 minutes. They're gonna be really on it, and we just need to absorb that for a little bit, and then we can have our time. And it really felt that we were able to do that, and we accepted doing that. And then that counter that led to Martinelli's finish was just as rapid as any of the United counters, and it was a phenomenal finish. You go 1-0 up at that point, it's a completely different ball game for a number of reasons, right? One, even after it was disallowed, like Man United were a little bit shell-shocked at that point. But let's talk about that, right? Because it's ruled out for VAR. Now, the referee's seen the incident, yeah? All right, Chan. We've had a couple of more comments. Chan's here, hello. Chan is a great supporter of this podcast. He's been, one of the guys from the start. Appreciate it. Evening, mate. Janigan, good to see you, mate. Nick, Man United fan, saying he agrees with Aaron, and we're unlucky. Arsenal a lot. Yeah. The disallowed VAR goal was a lifesaver for United. Nick's a good guy. He might as well be an Arsenal fan right now. Cheers, Nick. Yeah, listen. Again, I'm really conscious about not having sour grapes, but let's just talk about why it was a little bit annoying, right? The referee's there. He's seen it. He's in front of the incident, and he said, "Play on." Yeah, the incident's gone. Couple of passes, Arsenal score. Fourth official says, not fourth official, VAR room says, "I think you might need to have a look at this because I think it might be a foul." He's gone over to the screen. He's looked at about 4 or 5 different camera angles about 15 times. It went on for ages. Okay. And then he's turned around and disallowed the goal. Now, you disallow the goal at that point. If you base it, I've made a clear and obvious error. There's something that I've not seen there, and it was a clear error. Yeah. I don't know where to start with how much nonsense that is on so many levels. I mean, firstly, if you have to watch a replay 15 times, it's not clear and obvious, mate. Yeah, especially if you were standing there staring at it and, you're literally in front of it. Secondly, Jimmy Floyd Hasselback made this really important point, which is really true. Contact and a player going over, even if you make no contact with the ball, right? If you make contact with a player, it does not necessarily mean it's a foul. That's not the definition of a foul. Yeah. So the fact that Odegaard goes in and makes contact in the back of Eriksen and Eriksen go down, that does not necessarily mean it's a foul at all. And apparently the referees have been encouraged to allow physical play. They actually want football to remain a contact sport. And this is a light ball. And the referee has judged it perfectly when he's been there and he's seen the incident and he's thought it's enough to rule out. Now, do you know what? Fine, whatever. Okay, there are people who will say that by definition it's a foul, blah, blah, blah. Fine, we can argue that all we want. But again, look at all the cases of VAR over the last couple of weeks. How many times have things like that been overturned? Hardly ever. When bloody the guy who we tried to slide Douglas Luiz scores from a corner against Arsenal, right? The contact on Aaron Ramsdale is even bigger than that, but it's not disallowed because it's deemed as not that big a deal. Yeah, it was contact. Yeah, the contact brought him down, but you know what? Whatever. Okay, Tyrone Mings bring down, Saka manhandles him. He throws him to the ground, but it's declared not clear and obvious. Ref saw it. Complete inconsistency. Now, I agree. I've gone on a massive rant here, guys. Do you think the fact that it was at Old Trafford made a difference? Do you think it's anything to do with the fact that the referee and the officials are all from actually the greater Manchester area? Do you think it's got anything to do with people making VAR, officials trying to make VAR into a big controversy because they hate it and they want to get it thrown out? What do you guys think? Because clearly in my 3-minute rant or whatever, you know how I feel about it. I mean, Mice, what do you think?
You can't really legislate for it, explain it. Like, I definitely think Old Trafford is a factor. It's always been a factor historically. And that size of a crowd, you know, it must influence. It obviously has influenced referees over the years, but I mean, I can't really add too much more to what you've said in terms of how unhappy. Like, so when it actually happened at the time, we were talking about it, and I sort of said, I think me and you said, Aaron, and it's very, very soft, but it's maybe you know, we didn't really dispute it or argue it too much, and then yeah, you see more and more replays, and you see all the reaction afterwards, and you do like you kind of. And then I saw the Tielemans one from earlier in the day. I don't know if you guys saw that with Leicester against Brighton.
Yeah, it's very similar.
It's very similar. Probably Tielemans is probably more contact. So basically, the same thing happens. Tielemans wins the ball, but probably like barges the man out of the way, and then Leicester score and the goal's given. There's no, I don't know if there was a review or not, but the goal's given. So yeah, I absolutely think that the Old Trafford factor must have had a say in it. But like you say, Raj, like how do you explain the VAR seeing that and thinking and basically telling the ref to go to a monitor and look at it? I can't get my head around it. And obviously, this whole weekend or this weekend, it's been a weekend of controversy with VAR, right? The Chelsea West Ham one, the Newcastle one was Newcastle, wasn't it? I think it was Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle Palace, right?
Yeah. Palace, yeah, Tyreek Mitchell. So honestly, like, I don't know, mate. I mean, you could talk about it all day. I mean, yeah, not sure what else to add, really.
You hope some of these things go your way. I mean, later on in the season, and Chan, like you know, Chan's comment, consistently inconsistent decisions absolutely kills a game. It's true, isn't it? Right? Because we don't want to be talking about VAR, and it's one thing about us disagreeing with some of the application, but inconsistency is just. It's just BS, because if you're going to be inconsistent using VAR, you might as well get rid of it, because it's inconsistency with the referees on, you know, having their own subjective view anyway. If you're going to be inconsistent with how you apply the law, forget about it, right? I mean, Aaron, have you got anything more to say about VAR?
I think I spent all day thinking about this because I knew this moment would come, right? And I knew we would have to talk about this. And like, I think, like, once you put aside I don't think refs are biased. I'm kind of hoping that I know there's a lot of them from the Northwest. I'm hoping they're not like favoring Man United, and because if they are, we can't fix that. That's done, right? But I do think that I think football now has got a problem with rules and technology, in the sense that they keep changing the rules. Like, if I asked you, we've asked a panel of like 100 football fans to explain like offside and how it works nowadays in terms of like the intricacies of the rules, handball, and the intricacies of what's handball, what's not handball, what's a foul, what's not a foul. I reckon you get quite a split opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just they keep tweaking all the rules, and they keep tweaking VAR in terms of like what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to be there for. And I don't think referees really know. Honestly, I just think someone said, right, lads, at the start of the season, this is going to be a foul, this is not going to be a foul. And some of them have just forgotten. Like, and they're probably living by the old rule books, because at the start of the season, there was definitely a conscious effort from the Premier League to say, we want to let the soft challenges go, right? We're going to, like the challenge that Odegaard put in on Eriksen. That was like, in my opinion, an example of we're going to let that go. And we're just going to let the game flow. And everyone's like, great. And then all of a sudden, we score a goal, and it's like they've forgotten, and they're going through a lot of effort to say, how can we disallow this goal? Can we find the foul? I don't think that's what we should use VAR for. What VAR should be used for is there's something that's been seriously gone wrong here, the clear and obvious error, etc. And they need to go and find it and say, this is wrong. Because stopping, like when you celebrate a goal in the ground, it's like a really good moment, right? Like, you remember how we celebrate a game. To take that away, like, one man on his TV shouldn't have the power to take that away unless he has a very, very good reason to take that away. And it's like they went there. And even then, when the referee went and looked at the TV, he wasn't going to give it. And then maybe, Miles, that's what you said about the power of the crowd. Maybe he bottled it then, where he said, like, I'm going to have to now, like, go with this because my colleague has told me I need to look at this. The crowd are telling me I need to look at this, and he probably bottled it there. But I just don't think they know. Like the one on Aaron Ramsdale, right? Like we were annoyed, right? But we accept. Like I think if the referees didn't give that all season, we'd be like, okay, that's the game now. That's
Exactly.
what VAR's for. VAR's not going to intervene on that, so it's a goal. And like we were annoyed at the time, but we weren't like outraged, right?
Yeah, and even with the Saka one, to be honest, when Saka was brought down, it was annoying, but it's like, well,
I think it was easy for us to not be outraged because we won the game as well.
That's
right?
fine, right? I
That's true,
agree.
that's
But
true. That's
there
very
like
true.
I think for like and even our one, right, I think Miles, you said it right. I can see why they gave it, right? You can look at that at one angle and see a foul. You can look at it at another angle and see not a foul. It's 50-50. But again, why do they have to go and disallow it? Like they didn't need to. But the one at Chelsea West Ham, that is absolutely bonkers. That was like you know, that one really annoyed me, and I'm not a West Ham fan, but they went into microscopic detail to try and find a way to stop a goal in the 89th minute of a game.
This is the thing, right? So obviously, once they show a couple of replays and then they're not sure, and then they look at more replays, then they slow it down even further, and they look at more angles, and the more and more you slow it down, or the more times you watch a slow motion replay of that incident, the worse and worse it looks. And that's basically what's happening. Like you watch what happened between Ødegaard and Eriksen in real time. It's soft. It's not a foul. It's coming to, I don't know what you'd call it. Just a bit of contact. A bit of contact, a bit of aggression, not really that much aggression. And Eriksen just goes down. He feels the contact, goes down looking for the free kick. Similarly with Mendy, right? He feels contact and he fakes an injury or basically makes it obvious to the ref. But then when you watch that back, 10 times slow or whatever it is, it looks so much worse. And that's what they're basing the decision on. They're basing it on, on a super slow-mo replay.
But like if the ref gives that in real time and gives a foul on Ødegaard, on Eriksen, I don't think we complain. I don't think we're going to be outraged to be like, how could you give that a foul, right? Because you can see it being given.
We haven't scored as a result, right? As in, if we stop it before we've scored a goal, then it's almost like
the fact that, like you said, right, the fact that he let it go, we then scored, and then he takes it back, and there's like, I'm going to find a foul here. That's what annoys me, because A, they don't do that consistently, and B, they shouldn't be doing that because that's not what VAR is there for.
Agreed. Okay, so look, moving on from that, right? We then go and we concede that goal, and then it's 1-0. And actually, to be honest, we still end up playing quite well after that, and it goes into the second half, and we're down 1-0, but we come out. And I think Arsenal come out looking pretty good, right, Miles? I mean, they come out and it seems like Arteta's given a decent team talk, and he said, like, carry on doing what you're doing, and then we come up strong, and we look good coming up to the equaliser, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's basically what I said at the start. Like performance-wise, like it was in patches. I think you have to factor in it's still Man United. It's still Man United that won 3 games in a row. And I think I said this like last episode or a couple of episodes ago, as well as we have been playing and as good as the results have been, we're not at the level where we dominate a game for say 60 minutes or for an entire half, blow a team away or get the goals that we need, to secure the result. And then we can sort of take our foot off the gas. And I think we kind of saw that yesterday as well. Just in regards to some of the good moments, or should I say, a lot of the positives were in patches in terms of dominance and us, having a lot of the ball. But yeah, like you say, Raj, we came out second half, and I don't know about you guys, I completely expected that sort of reaction because there was so much to take from the first half anyway. That goal could have easily been given, as we just talked about. The scoreline would have been very, very different, or would have been different. And there would, like I say, so many positives to take from the first half. I don't think Arteta necessarily had to say too much. It was almost like to say, look, they're there for the taking. I think he said this in his post-match as well, right? Like they're basically there. The game's there for you if you really want it. And I think we did try. I think we definitely, obviously, tried to go and win the game. And I think we came out with that attitude of, we played really well. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. The chances will come, and obviously the chances did come. But I think it was just the sort of, I don't want to say sucker punches, but they weren't really sucker punches, but it was those couple of moments just sort of switching off at the back or possibly midfield, as Aaron touched on when you mentioned Lokonga. That really did cost us.
So, I mean, on that, right, let's just assume for a second that whoever the personnel was, whether it be Lokonga, Partey or El Neni, let's just assume that in any of those instances, the the midfield is bypassed and actually kind of we get a line breaking pass that that ends up with a player going through on goal. Yeah. Now, Arsenal have last season played the third highest line, I think, in the league. And we're playing a pretty high line this season as well. We talked about it before around, teams like Liverpool who play such high lines and they do it and it's so effective in how they attack and they take the gamble because they've got rapid defenders. And in fairness, in Saliba and Gabriel, we do have two quick defenders and Saliba is absolutely rapid. So you're sort of playing a system which says, yeah, do you know what? We might get counted, but actually we'll be okay. Aaron, did it concern you how essentially it was at the end of the day 3 counters with this, playing a high line with a quick back 4 or at least 2 quick centre backs and Ben White's pretty quick as well. But each of those times, I mean, I think Ben White came close on the second goal. I think, he came close and I think he even got a deflection which ends up kind of going past Ramsdale. But do you think in any way that Arteta will look at this and go, oh, crap, I'm not really sure this tactic is the best one? Or do you think that he will look at it and go, there's not many counter-attacking teams out there with the pace that Man United have?
Yeah, I think honestly, I watched the goals back and some of the passing for the Man United goals was ridiculously good. And I think you have to be good to cut that defense open, and they were. Like that Fernandes pass, that Eriksen pass, just like some of the play out from the back. And this is what reluctantly impressed me about Man United was the fact that they've dropped Maguire, they've got Varane, they've got
Martinez,
that's it. They were really good at just playing out from the back, and then with Eriksen in that kind of deeper 6 role, he can kind of do what he was doing, what Partey was doing, which should be doing for us, which is taking the ball from defense and just transitioning really quickly. And a lot of the time, I thought it was like Zinchenko and to a certain extent Lokonga did a good job of just stopping that happening. But the problem is the minute they beat the press or they kind of just find the right pass and someone's out of position here or a couple of people are just not in the optimal position, they've got the runners, they've got the pace to then get in behind. And like I said earlier, they had 3 chances and they played all 3 of those chances really well. And I think, how many times you do that again? I don't think Man United are going to do that again. They got everything right perfectly and they punished us, and that fair play to them. It almost reminds me, it reminds me of like playing Spurs in the sense that we would do everything right. They would do the Kane Son thing and they would score. It had similar vibes. And I kind of, we've got Spurs coming up and I kind of hope we learn our lessons from this in terms of, where people need to be off the ball, who to press, who not to press. Because you can see Spurs playing a very similar tactic to the way United played us. And I think Spurs will be very happy to give us the ball. They'll just be like, we've got the passing capability to bypass your defense.
It's very interesting you say this. So just to interrupt you quickly, because there was someone, I can't remember which account it was on Twitter, but they were analyzing the game and they basically said this game was very, very similar to the Man City Tottenham games, both of those games last season. So both Man City, Tottenham, home and away, both those games played out a really similar way, where effectively Man City ended up basically just overcommitting at very key moments, and Tottenham the whole game were just willing to kind of say, we'll wait for our moments, we'll counter and hope for the best in that way. And it was the quality, in the Kane and Son, and when you've got players of that quality, they're able to take advantage of those moments. And it was similar, I felt, with what Man United did. But Aaron, does that, just to let you finish, but maybe applying this lens to it, does that mean that ultimately, we need to, if we're going to do this, if we're going to back ourselves, we need to get a lot better at what we're doing. So we need to make sure that we are executing and we are taking whatever chances and making better decisions in the box, because we just can't afford to play this dominating game and not do that, because we will get counted against some of these bigger teams.
I think that's fair. I think we need to just, if we can do more with the possession, we probably score 1 or 2, and then United aren't in a position to do that because we're probably not taking as many risks. So I think, the forward play almost affects the way we defend. And, when we go behind against a team like that, we're in bigger trouble because we have to commit more because we're chasing the game. And that then encourages a counter-attacking team to continue to counter. Right? If we went 1-0 up, United can't play a counter-attacking game because we can sit back. I mean, they might still be able to, like, if they played it a bit more cautiously, they might still be able to play counter, but it encourages them to try and come out more.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, I think if we play that way against most teams, not every team is going to be able to hurt us in the way that Man United did yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, it's just annoying because it's Man United. Like, I think if that happened against Palace, we'd be like, oh, okay, we got done by 3 clinical goals, and let's not do that again. But it's because, we all know Man United fans, they've just got annoying players. It's just really annoying.
Well, it's probably, Nish, who was watching, actually said this to me after the game. When I was sort of down in the dumps about the result, he basically said, look, this kind of approach will probably pay dividends in the long run, right? And I think that's the point, right? I think it probably is true. You play like that against most teams, you probably are going to get something out of it. But Miles, like, there's been a question. I don't know if you know who this guy is, by the way. Like, he's left a question.
I sort of know him. He's my brother-in-law.
Okay, all right.
He's a West Ham fan.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
so I'm going to direct this question to you, but let's put a bit of broader context, because it's a really, really good question. But there is a broader question that's embedded in this, right? We saw. So Arteta's relatively predictable with his substitutions normally, right? In fact, we have complained many times of him maybe not being as proactive with subs. He waits quite a while, and they're fairly predictable. He doesn't really take risks. But what he did after we went 2-1 down was, if it was Wenger, then I probably would have thought, it was a classic Wenger thing to do. Would basically just go, right,
bring on all the strikers.
I'm going to bring in every single attacking option I have. Yeah. And I'm going to throw them on. And he made I don't think anyone understood what kind of system we were playing when he put on Vieira for his debut. He brings on Eddie, he brings on ESR. Martinelli's still on the pitch at this point. So is Jesus. So is Saka. The whole crew is. So anyway, Miles, I'll let you respond to the question, which is, specifically, what are your views to take off Odegaard and Zinchenko after going 2-1? Surely that doesn't make sense.
So we had it was about 20 minutes to go, 15, 20 minutes to go, I think. So I think the sub was due. I was completely shocked that he did. He went for a triple substitution, like you say, Raj. That is it's just unprecedented, really, when it comes to Arteta. I couldn't get my head round Vieira coming on, his first ever minutes for us, considering that we've had a couple of home games. We had the Bournemouth game where he easily could have come on, assuming he was fit, even for 5 minutes. It was very, very weird to put that expectation on a player that's never played for us before away at Old Trafford when you're 2-1 down. So I didn't really get that. But yeah, look, specifically with Odegaard and Zinchenko, I completely agree with Sat. I think Odegaard was having a pretty good game. I know he missed that chance, but he was overall having a pretty good game, pulling all the strings as normal, integral to the way that we're playing or we're playing. Didn't really understand that substitution specifically. Obviously, you've got to sort of sacrifice someone. The Zinchenko one maybe less so, because who did he bring on? He brought on Vieira, Smith Rowe, and Eddie, right? So he essentially sacrificed our left back for a more attacking player, whichever one of those three you want to choose. So that one sort of makes sense, but obviously.
But do you think, do you think they could have both been fitness related? Because Odegaard was a doubt, and Zinchenko.
Yeah, I was going to suggest this. Right? I was going to say it might have been fitness related, but
continue. Sorry, continue. Yeah. Go finish what you're saying, Miles.
No, good point. Yeah, so exactly. I know they're both sort of doubts or were carrying injuries or slight injuries, but this is the frustrating thing. So on a more general basis, right? He hasn't really given Smith Rowe a look in this season. He hasn't given Vieira any minutes so far. And I know that Vieira came into the season with an injury. I don't think he was in the squad for the first couple of games or whatever. But then all of a sudden it's right, now we're gonna go gung ho. We're gonna throw on Smith Rowe and Vieira and expect them to kind of contribute to us coming back into this game or getting another goal with 15 or 20 minutes to go. That I didn't really understand. I didn't really get. Eddie, standard sub when we need a goal, and he had a pretty good impact, to be fair, as he has had all season. But yeah, the whole triple substitution thing and the Vieira thing, I didn't really understand, and it's a bit of a consistent theme with Arteta. Sometimes his substitutions are questionable for sure, and not really sure what the thinking was. Don't know what you guys think, actually.
Yeah, I kind of feel like doing all three at the same time probably took us from a structure which was working well, albeit we were a bit shell shocked with the second goal, to just chaos, right? And I think Man United, like, it's one of those where if it works, like, you think Arteta's a genius, and you think, oh, like, that's a really attacking sub, like against Villa when he took off Tierney and he brought on Eddie, I think, or something like that. I was like, oh, that's good. Like, that's a substitution with intention. I think just taking off Lokonga, taking off Zinchenko, like in our midfield, I think it just leaves Xhaka, right? And Smith Rowe playing wherever Smith Rowe was going to play. So it was, I think, too much too quickly. Where I think,
yeah. I was going to say he didn't necessarily. Yeah, he didn't need to make that many subs. He didn't need to change it up that much. We were still in the game. We were still playing really well.
We're still the better team at that point.
And still, exactly, we had more of the ball.
That was a complete sucker punch. The 2-1 goal was out of nowhere. We were really dominating.
Do you reckon he just lost his head a little bit, Arteta? He just got a bit excited and lack of experience maybe just cost him.
Maybe maybe he thought, you know what, we're top of the league. We've won a whole bunch of games. And if I'm going to need to learn some stuff about my squad at some point, and I'm going to have to take a risk at some point. Maybe I'm just going to do this and see what happens and see how we react. And, you know, you can't replicate match scenarios, right? So it doesn't matter how much you think about this stuff in training. Every now and again, you're going to have to try something. So maybe he just tried something and he thought that the occasion or whatever it would be was not a huge amount to lose. Maybe that's how he looked at it and he went for it. It didn't pay off.
The 5 subs rule probably didn't help. Right, if we had 3 subs, I don't think he makes those 3 subs.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I think, you know, there's an element to say that he probably thought at 2-1, if he kept everything as it was, there's a chance that we could equalize. But he may have thought, would I rather try and win? And is it better to just come out with a win and, you know, go for broke in that way? Because, you know, as we know, as the maths go, you could, let's say, winning 1 and drawing 2 is worse than winning 2 and losing 1. You know, like, you know, wins are gold, right? And maybe he just thought, I'll go for it, and if not, whatever. I don't know. And if he did do that, if that did come into play, then that's a gamble. And as a manager, he has to take that on the chin because it didn't pay off. And you can't blame, from that point when he made that sub, you can't blame the players at all. Right, for anything that happened after that point, I think, you know, because that was just it was.
Well,
just
I still think you expect the players to defend properly, right?
Like, yes, well, I don't know. In that kind, you brought in a bunch of players. I'm sure that there was a lot of questions. I'm sure there wasn't. I'm sure not every player on that pitch was clear as to what their role was structurally at that point. Because they can't have rehearsed for that system.
No, fine, yeah, no, I agree with that. But you still expect them when on the pitch to be like, okay, they're going to counter here.
I think I'm more annoyed about the first goal than the second and the third goal, to be honest. The first goal, we just I know we talked about it, but Lokonga just was nowhere to be seen. And again, I'm not kind of blaming him or picking on him, but he wasn't in the area where Fernandes picks up the ball. And then Gabriel's completely has to, you know, the shape just goes. Gabriel has to step out. He's out of position, makes a desperate tackle, and then Zinchenko comes. I don't know why. To be honest, I don't even know. I don't know if you've watched it back, but Zinchenko comes inside and just leaves Anthony free. I think he has no real reason.
Basically, it's 2-on-1 at that point, right? So I don't think because
Saliba's there. Whoever's got the ball centrally, Rashford,
and then at that point, he either has to stick with his man and Rashford can run in, or he has to leave. Anthony.
Yeah, I think,
and basically, I think what happens is then Zinchenko tries to go cover him on the outside, but again, Rashford makes a really good pass on the inside, and then the annoying thing is it falls to the left footer. On the right hand side, right? If that's a right footer, he probably goes to Ramsdale can deal with it, but it's just everything worked out really well for them. I think the biggest issue was that Martinelli wasn't covering.
Yeah. It does go back to what you're saying, Aaron, right? Like, arguably, for all the 3 Man United goals, the easiest part of those goals were the finishes. And the things that happened before that were just excellent for Man United. The two passes prior to the goals in both, in all 3 goals were brilliant. Like, because that first goal, the Eriksen, line breaking pass was brilliant, and Rashford's pass, it had to be very precise. He had to make it. It was a very small gap to get through, and he had to time it, and he had to get the right weight on it, and it was so easy for Anthony at that point. So it is, it is frustrating, but it is quality in that. And I think that's when guys, when we were talking about this, when we were, and we were kind of having a brief discussion on WhatsApp, that's when I was getting a little bit worried. I was getting a bit worried because I thought it had shades of the Man City game of last season where we played some great stuff. We had some great organization overall, but we lost the game in some key moments. And I was worried this time when it just felt like, are the team not that is an element that a big team needs. A big team needs to understand that games are not always going to go your way. There's things that aren't going to go right, but you're going to get some moments, and you've just got to take those moments. And it's concentration for 90 minutes, and it's those things that ultimately end up deciding these big games. It's these margins, right? And that is a concern of mine slightly, and it still is after this. I'm really hopeful. Put it this way, I'm really, really hopeful to see soon a big game where actually things are going against us. We don't necessarily play as fluently or whatever, and we win. I'd love to see that, because that would tell me a lot about this team. But I think as well, right, one thing that we should say is look at Liverpool at the moment. They have a lot of injuries, and they're suffering as a result of having a lot of those injuries. I was talking to a Liverpool fan today in the office. He's a season ticket holder. He goes to all the games. And I said to him, I said, what's the problem? And he goes, mate, it's just injuries. It's just completely devastated how we play. Like, people are kind of, square pegs in round holes and whatever, that kind of thing. It's just not, maybe. I know what you mean. I know what you say. It's still Liverpool, still got big squad, whatever. Now, in the same way, right, I think, the point here is, yes, we did have some players who came back from injury, but this was really a game where you needed Partey or El Neni, and we didn't have either. El Neni is the backup defensive midfielder. Partey is our main defensive midfielder. Neither of them are there. Lokonga, a lot of people has a future as a number 6, but like you said, Miles, I think it's fair, even though sometimes it's hard to understand where everyone's position should be on the pitch. He probably did leave a bit of a gap a couple of times, and that ended up costing us. Do you know what I mean? But let's kind of maybe take a step back from this, guys. Right? Let's get out of the game itself for a second now. Right? So we lost 3-1. It's done. It happened. We weren't going to win every game this season. We've played well. We've lost. We've dissected it. Right? Where are we now? We're still top of the league.
The title is still in our hands. We win every game.
The title is still mathematically still in our hands. Yeah,
we win all our games from now until the end of the season. We are champions.
We're champions. Okay. So exactly. So in that respect,
someone's going to clip that up, put it all over social media, and you two are going to be like, right, idiots.
That's true. That's true. We should like print disclaimers all the time just in case. But no, look. I guess the point is, we would have still taken this in a heartbeat, wouldn't we? At the start of the season, if you said, guys, I tell you what, you will lose to Man United at Old Trafford, but at that point, you will still be top of the league. We would have all taken that. There's not one of us that would have taken that, right? So it's hard, it's painful, this loss, right? But let's contextualize this. So, I know we've got Zurich midweek, but let's just hold off on that as a second. We are in a situation, we are in a league right now. It might be good to get your guys' thoughts on this, because it's a bit of a weird one to figure out, isn't it? The league right now is incredibly hard to assess in terms of predicting where everyone's is now and how people are doing to how they may end up later on in the season. People are dropping points left, right, and centre inexplicably. I don't think anyone thought Man City were going to drop points away at Aston Villa, right? And from top to bottom, you look at result. They were Bournemouth, won a game the other day. Come on, when sorry, I just animatedly just dropped something on the floor,
smashing up the place.
We're not Liverpool dropping points. Liverpool dropped points to Everton. who bloody hell. I mean, Everton's been useless, and they dropped points. And we're playing Everton coming up. I mean, could this be a season? Could this be a season where the team that just beats who they're meant to beat more often than not ends up doing pretty well?
What do you mean by pretty well?
So let's go back to Leicester, when Leicester won the league. Leicester lost to Arsenal home and away. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like and Arsenal ended up finishing second, and we were brilliant that year for the most part. We were brilliant. I know we were third for a long time and kind of sneaked it, whatever. But when we played Leicester home and away, we scored a lot of goals. I think we scored 7 goals across those 2 games. Yeah. But what Leicester did really well that other teams didn't do that season was Leicester just basically went and did basic things. They got the basic results right. So they had a system and they just scored goals and they beat most teams that actually, weren't that great. So, if their record on the top 6, I think was decent. I think it still was decent, but actually it was more a case of they were just getting points off everyone else. And everyone else, all the other top teams that season, for one reason or another, were actually just dropping points. Like randomly, they were just dropping points, all of them. Yeah? Is this one of those seasons?
You're asking me.
I'm asking you, sorry.
I think it's way too early, mate. Like, I think, obviously, we seem to be used to this, like Man City, Liverpool, from game 1 all the way through to the end of the season. They rarely drop any points, especially Man City, but Liverpool as well. They've done like amazingly well to kind of keep up the levels as they have done in the last few seasons. And we've become used to that. That's like your default top 2. I think what we're seeing now is probably a bit of a throwback to more regular Premier League seasons where maybe it takes a little bit more time for teams to kind of get into the groove. It's obviously a bit of a weird season as well with the World Cup coming up. Not that that's any relevance to how things have started, but yeah. And so maybe it's for me, I feel like it's just more a case of like Liverpool's injuries. I kind of turned my nose up a little bit when you mentioned what your friend had said, but it's fair enough. Like if we had that sort of level of injuries, we'd probably struggle too. But yeah, I think it's more a case of teams are just like, I guess you could say getting up to speed maybe, or just kind of getting into the swing of things in terms of performance levels. Like you can't really see Man City. Yeah, they've dropped points against Newcastle and Villa, but I mean, really, I can see them just blowing most teams away, to be honest. There's not really anything you look. I don't know. Personally, I don't look at Man City and think they've obviously got they've got stronger compared to last season. They've added even more goals. They've not really. I know they've lost a couple of players, but they don't seem to be struggling on that front. So yeah, like I think it's a bit too early to tell if say Liverpool and City's form continues going into the World Cup, or when the World Cup comes around, probably another 9 games or so, then you might say, yeah, it could be a bit more of an open season. But and the same applies for us, right? It's a very small sample size in terms of our 5 wins out of 6. I'm not sure we're going to maintain that kind of form after 20, 25 games, personally. Yeah. I don't think any Arsenal fan thinks that, right? So yeah, I think it's just very, very early days. The most worrying one for me is probably Tottenham, because even though they're not playing amazingly well, like I'm not watching them that closely, I'm not watching every minute of all of their games, but the feeling that I'm getting from Tottenham is they're not playing amazingly well. Son's not really playing that well. He's not done anything this season so far in terms of goal contributions or assists. But Kane scoring goals, Richarlison seems to have come in, and they seem to be able to rotate Richarlison and Kulusevski, it looks like, at the moment. They've added real quality to the squad. And obviously Conte, I say real quality, I think they've added quality to the squad. And Conte is obviously getting them to play a certain way that is going to make them really, really effective. And I'm worried that they're going to be, well, I think they're just going to be a pretty strong team this season. That's a bit of a concern, but otherwise, I don't know, mate. I think it's still very, very early days to say that this is going to be a Leicester type season or anything near that.
Yeah, no, and let's be crystal clear, right? As much as we joke, there is not one of us who actually thinks Arsenal can win the league.
Well, right? Actually, so Aaron, and I asked you this on the last episode, but I'm interested to know, because we haven't spoken about it. Do you disagree with that? What Raj just said?
What? I think we're going to win the league.
No, not that you think we're going to win the league, but do you think there's a chance? Because I personally don't think there's a chance in hell. And so my brother-in-law sat. I was speaking to him on the weekend, and he was drunk, to be fair, but he said something about Arsenal are definitely going to win the league. This is before we lost to United, and I was like, no chance, absolutely no chance. And he's more neutral because he's a West Ham fan. But yeah, I remember at the start of the season, you said, if you have a good start, that could. I keep forgetting the exact words, but I'm just.
I think I said if we win our first 5, we're not going to be talking about top 4. We're going to be talking about going beyond that.
You said we at the time as a dressing room. So again, to be clear, it was about what the players and the manager would be talking about.
Well, yeah, players, manager, and then eventually us, right? Like, I don't think the players and manager are talking about top 4. Like, I think they go game by game, right? But
Yeah,
and
I
that's
agree.
every team.
Agree. I think. Yeah,
And unless you're Liverpool or City, where you draw a game and you think, oh, that's 2 points dropped in the title race. Everyone else is sort of, I don't know. I think every Premier League team is like in the title race until they're not, in that sense, right? Like maybe not Bournemouth or something. But
yeah, but
you kind of just like, okay, let's hang on in there for as long as possible and then see where it goes. And that's what we got to do. And we've just got if City and Liverpool hit the heights of the last 3 seasons, hit that points total, I don't think we'll get that close. But
mate, I think
will they? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I think I've said this before, but I feel like you've almost got to put up a title challenge to put yourself in a good chance of finishing in the top 4. Like to almost cement a top 4, you need to be kind of in the title race for as long as you can, because it's just going to be.
Yeah, no, go on. To go back to your point there, I think Mai said it,
Yeah.
right, which is around this, like putting these runs together and beating who we need to beat, like you said, Raj. Like we did this a lot last season where we put runs together. I think there was a period where we won five in a row a few times.
Yeah.
Problem is, when we lose a game, we then lose 3 in a row. Or we lose, like I was looking at our results, I think we lost, so we lost our first 3, then we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 8 unbeaten, and then we lost 3 of the next 4. Then we won another run, and then we a couple of decent draws, and then again there was another patch where we went on a massive run, lost to Liverpool, had a win versus Arsenal. Then there was that streak where we lost away to Palace, lost at home to Brighton, and lost away at Southampton. Then again we went on that nice winning run. We beat Chelsea, beat Man United, beat West Ham, beat Leeds, and then we lost to Spurs, and we lost to Newcastle. Like the key thing is, and I see Sats asked the question, which is like, if City lose to Spurs, then is there pressure on us to bounce back? Like regardless of what happens in City and Spurs, I think the really crucial thing is that we win on Sunday against Everton, because we can't allow one defeat to turn into 3, especially when we play Everton. Because I remember last season we rocked up to Everton, maybe having lost a game. I think we played Man United. Yeah,
we lost at Ronaldo. Yeah.
We played at Old Trafford, and we were like, very similar vibe, but we played well. But we were like, how did we lose that game? Then we went to an Everton at that point who are even worse than they are now, where I don't think they've won in like
they had won in
8 games or something,
and they didn't win after that for ages as well.
Yeah, and they comfortably beat us. Like
in the last minute, they won in the last minute.
No, but we did nothing.
I think we missed. Didn't Eddie miss like a fucking well easy chance?
Yeah, I mean we were trashed though. But do you remember we were trashed that game? Oh my god, we were proper toilet.
And that is the type of stuff we need to cut out. Like, and that will be a genuine sign of improvement if we go and win on Sunday. And actually, we've got Europe in the middle, and it'll be interesting to see if you think that will help or not. Regardless, we have to win on Sunday.
No, I agree with you, and I completely agree. And look, to Sat's question, I think that's good. The pressure on us to win, it's nothing to do, I think, with what happens at Tottenham City. I think it's exactly what you say, Aaron. And the pressure on us to win is because we can't lose 2 on the bounce. I don't even think we can lose and then draw 1. Draws a pony. Draws 1 point. Like draws cost a lot of places in this league. In previous years, teams that draw too many games, it's not about that. And 2 losses, I think, is dangerous. If we win, it's so helpful because it's one of those things. Also, our squad probably reflects on last season and thinks, okay, cool. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to be that team who'll lose a few games in a row. And everyone's going to lose games, but people are going to need to bounce back. So yeah, cool. All right. Can we reflect on Thursday for a second, and then we'll wrap up this show, our first ever live stream. So Thursday presents our first Europa League game of the season, away at Zurich. Zurich, who last time I checked were the bottom of the Swiss league. They hadn't won a game. I think they've drawn 2 and lost the rest. I think there's 10 teams in the league. I think 5. Okay. I think they drew 2 and lost 3. There's 10 teams in their league, I think. But bottom, I mean that's pretty poor, right? So we've got them away on Thursday. We've said, before leading up to this Man United game, and I think we, based on the selection at Man United, I think we can sort of comfortably sort of say that Arteta's not been rotating. He's not been rotating anyone thus far, and it's felt that he's almost going to use the Europa League for that opportunity. So, I mean, Miles, what do you see? Do you see the Europa League? Do you see this game against Zurich as being the proper B team, if you like, literally minus all the regular starters?
Well, I don't think you'll rest every single current starter, to be honest.
Okay, so what's your team? What do you think the team might be?
Oh God, I haven't actually thought of the team, to be fair, or what the team might be. But okay, so I'm expecting him to rotate Rams. So I'm going Turner in goal, Cedric right back, Holding, and I think he might bring Ben White in as the other centre back, but that means 2 right-footed centre backs. I'm not sure, but we've only got 1 left-footed centre back, so can he really risk Gabriel in this game? So I'll go White, Holding, Tierney.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're not saying you don't think Tomiyasu will start?
Yeah, surely he has to play.
But I don't know.
Does he
have to play? Then what's Cedric in the squad for?
Well,
I mean, is that
question for like 3 years.
I mean,
and there's an argument for Tomiyasu, but I'm just a bit worried that I'm not worried. I'm conscious that he might not want to. I mean, there's no like Cedric. It's not like bringing in a Tavares, for example. You know what you're going to get with him. He's pretty solid, dependable. And I think Tomiyasu's got plenty of Premier League minutes to come this season. So, but yeah, I could see Tomiyasu starting as well. But okay, I'm going to go with Cedric though. Central midfield.
Do you think maybe you'll play? Do you think you might play Tomiyasu at centre back then?
If he plays Tommy, maybe I don't. For the same reason that Mai said, I do think there'll be some players who will play as well. And Ben White seems to be a pretty fit guy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I know he was injured at the back end of last season, but yeah, I think his fitness record is pretty good. So I think he'll play Xhaka in central midfield because I think for obvious reasons.
We don't have anyone else.
We don't have anyone else. Who's he going to play in central midfield alongside him? I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? You play Lokonga and Xhaka. What if one of them gets injured? You're fucked, basically.
Well, the alternate formation from last season, do you remember when Arteta was trying 4-3-3 a bit? And there are a couple of times where is that your brother who's just turned up?
Hello. Yes, it is.
Family affair today.
Tottenham fan.
Tottenham fan. Tune in right for the end, just for the Europa chat. Yeah, exactly. You would know about these problems, Sav, right now. But fair enough. Because do you remember, like, there was a period last season where we were sort of trialing 4-3-3, where actually we started playing people like Odegaard and ESR in those kind of deeper positions. Like, I wonder if it could be something like that with a Vieira playing in the middle with a maybe Vieira, Xhaka, and Smith or something like that. Yeah,
possibly. So yeah, this is what I mean. I haven't really given it too much thought yet, but I'm sort of on the spot. That could potentially be it. I'm really concerned / not really sure how he's going to approach central midfield, because once you go past Lokonga in the squad, who else? Is Aziz in the squad?
Yeah, he's gone on loan to Ibiza, mate.
Oh yeah, of course he has. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah. Party boy.
We don't really mostly because the other exactly, because all of our like real prospects in central midfield have been loaned out. Patino's gone, etc. So it is pretty light from that, in that way. Listen, I think look, we're not going to be able to play a B team every Thursday, right? Actually, most teams don't do that. You do get to rotate, but you don't play a full B team, and it's just that something our players are going to have to learn. And our players are going to have to get used to playing 2 games a week sometimes. And it might just be a case, because of the 5 sub rule, brilliant. It might just be against Everton that some of the players who play minutes on Thursday just don't play a full game. Maybe, maybe it's as simple as that, right? So,
I agree. I think we'll probably be a bit surprised who plays. I think maybe Martinelli might play. I think.
Will you not just head in hands if he plays like Saka or Marseille? Just thinking.
I think he'll definitely play one. I think he'll play one of them. Mate.
Well, he has to, because Smith Rowe's injured.
He won't rest. Exactly. He won't.
He doesn't have got Eddie.
Well, we don't know that for sure, right? Smith Rowe's. I don't think that's been confirmed.
We think he might be injured.
Yeah.
Well, if he is, then
we wouldn't be surprised if he's injured.
Yeah, I think Jesus will get a rest. Ramsdale will get a rest.
Jesus has to get a rest. You've got to.
I think Saka will probably get a rest. Everyone else, maybe Zinchenko if he's not fit. Odegaard if he's not fit.
He might.
But everyone else, I think, will play.
He might play Tierney. Because he brought Tierney on and played him further ahead of Zinchenko, didn't he? So maybe that.
Are we being a bit too football manager about it though? Like, in terms of
I don't think it'll be anywhere near as nuts as that.
Yeah. What's this guy starting shit in the comments? Listen, yeah, we're having a nice chat about a big game against Zurich.
We're discussing the B team here.
We're like, seriously, these questions.
I love it,
these
man. I love the
guys-
interaction from the fans. My brother.
Just to finish off with what we're saying, fine. Maybe we'll answer your question at the end of this pod, but you've got to stay to the end. To be fair, we'll probably wrap up in a second. Yeah, like that Tini is a good shout. Tini is a good shout, but you know what it's like, right? Like it's not. If we play a complete botched job of an 11, it doesn't matter if Zurich are bottom of the league, right? Surely it doesn't matter. If they've got any clue as to what they're doing, I'm sure it'll be very tricky. I mean, this is not. We can't treat it like a pre-season game, surely. I mean, is there an argument to say we should go out, play a pretty strong team, and then if we're winning 3-0, then like just take everyone off?
Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I think you'll play a strong-ish team with obvious rotation where possible. Yeah, so I think like Tomiyasu will come in. I think Eddie will come in. Vieira will come in. Like the obvious players who are on the bench will start, and then it will be everyone else who played on Sunday will just play on Thursday.
So what you think? Saka, Martinelli,
unless they absolutely like justify being
Saliba?
rotated.
No,
Maybe.
Yeah,
I think Saliba's probably got more of a chance than Ben White or Gabriel from playing.
That'll be really interesting if he goes that strong. I'd be surprised.
Surely he said to people like Holding, "You will play Europa."
Yeah, I mean, this is why we've got the squad, right?
I mean, yeah,
we don't have a massive squad, but this is why you've got those squad players. Surely, everyone and turnaround time Thursday to Sunday. I know it's going to be like that the whole season, but you want fresh legs in the with the main players or the starting 11, Premier League starting 11. So I don't know.
What's your score prediction, guys? Before we answer Sab's question and then maybe call it a day.
Not a clue. 3-0 Arsenal. No, don't ask me why. 3-0. Because we're better.
I'll go 2-0.
Well, I reckon. I think they'll score. So I'm going to go with 3-1. 3-1 Arsenal.
Who's going to score for them, Raj?
Johnny Zurich.
Zurich. Okay.
I've got no idea. No.
Yeah, they're just going to rock up, and there's probably some random ex-Arsenal academy player or Tottenham academy player that now plays for FC Zurich. There's going to be some random Premier League household name. There always is. You rock up to these Europa teams.
Look at this squad.
And then there's just some guy,
some Brazilian,
this like Premier League journeyman who's done his time and is now in Switzerland, tax-free salary, just living life. Mai's going to tell us now.
Mai's check. Right, Mai's checking it. Right, we'll answer Sav's question. In fairness, it's been a core group of people who've joined this live stream. So, we have to honor and respect that by answering the question. So, Sav's asked, who's finishing higher, Spurs or Arsenal?
Arsenal.
Aaron says Arsenal. And Aaron, quantify that. Where are Arsenal finishing and where Spurs finishing?
It's like a serious discussion. Okay.
This is a serious discussion, yeah. On your feeling right now, from everything you've seen, there's 1 point, I think, in it between the two teams. They're both right up there. What do you think?
I think even now, Spurs still have too much riding on Harry Kane. And to a certain extent, I know he's not playing well now, but Son. And at some point, maybe this is just hope rather than any logic, he'll get injured and they'll fade away. Like, they're not playing well yet. And at some point, and right now, they're still relying on individual moments rather than team moments. And like Mai's, you probably said it earlier, you're worried because you assume they'll get better, right? But they could get worse.
Yeah, so could we.
Yeah. Forget about that. Yeah.
Mai's, what do you reckon? Or do you want to go last because it's your brother?
So go on then. Yeah.
Go
for it, Raj.
Sav, I'll stick to what I said at the beginning of the season, which I think is that I think Arsenal will finish above Spurs, but I think that's because of the Champions League. I think that the Champions League is going to take a lot out of Spurs. I think Conte's got a massive, massive Champions League monkey on his back because his history is that he is rubbish in the Champions League. His record in the Champions League is terrible for a manager of his quality, and he is such high quality, by the way. Like, I think he's so good. I think he is the biggest draw at Spurs, bigger than Harry Kane, in my opinion, right? I think regardless of that, his record in the Champions League is awful, and I think he's going to really focus on it. I think Kane will focus on it. It's terrible. Honestly, look, it's like bad.
I don't know that.
It's surprisingly bad. Like, I don't think he's ever, I want to say he's never made a quarterfinal. It's really, and it's stuff like, it's like, for example, his time at Juventus, where he complained every year about the squad or something like this.
He's doing that now at Spurs, right?
Yeah, he's made a moan. But basically, then when he left Juventus, they made 2 finals back to back. Yeah, like it's really like the stat that it's compelling. It's really compelling. Anyway, point is, I think he's going to be really up for the Champions League. I think Kane is, because I think Kane knows he's got a much higher chance of winning the Champions League with Spurs than winning the league with Spurs. So I think he's going to be so focused on Champions League games. Son the same, right? I think that's going to take a lot out. And I think when those games come up and you've got league games beforehand and afterwards, it's going to take a lot. It's a lot easier playing FC fucking Zurich than, a Champions League team, right? Like, and I think that could be it, to be honest. And also, I think there still is, like, with Tottenham, they are still a team which relies on a lot of individual quality, which they have. They have like big individual quality at the top. But I think, like an injury to Kane, I think would be problematic. So that's my thing. Mice?
Yeah, I'll make it short and sweet. I was actually leaning a little bit towards Spurs, but I think you guys have made some really valid points. So yeah, I'm going to say us. I'm basing it on, I mean, like, we've seen the performances so far, right? And we've talked about it so many times, what Jesus has added, what Zinchenko's added, the squad's looking more kind of complete. We have a way of playing. We seem to be dominating in matches, dominating the ball, creating chances. For all of these reasons, I think, unless there's like a couple of really bad injuries, obviously we've already got 1 or 2, but unless there's some really bad injuries, I can see us like really smashing a few teams this season and hopefully being a lot more consistent. So I think in terms of top 4, I think that'll definitely help us get top 4. I think we'll get top 4, and I think we're a better team than Tottenham, to be honest. I think overall we're a better team than Tottenham. I think we've got more goals around the team than Tottenham as well. And as Aaron said, I think Tottenham seems to be relying a little bit more on individual brilliance at the moment, and we're relying on our team playing well for us to win games. So yeah, I'm going to say Arsenal as well.
Very good. So, Sav is going to come back to this, I'm sure, when Tottenham inevitably end up finishing above us and throw this back in our face. But that's the question, Sav, and thank you for turning up. And Tish Eats. Now Tish has joined this. He's an Arsenal fan, and he's come right at the end. I don't know why he's turned up at, 11:10. But one thing you got to know about Tish, he's a doctor and he cooks, and he has an Instagram page, which is all about the shit that he makes. It looks amazing. And that's Tish Eats. So he doesn't just eat, he cooks as well. And what he's saying is January transfer market is key this season more than before. A lot of games after January than usual. You just need, mate, you've got to sort out. I mean, honestly, mate, rewrite this and send it back in, mate.
He is from Ilford, to be fair.
You just need to be around the top 4 and then strengthen. Arsenal biggest mistake last year. You just need to get around the top 4. What are you talking? I thought he's an Arsenal.
So you just need to be around the top 4 and then strengthen.
As in a team in general just needs to be around the top 4. Is that what he's saying? Because he's saying you as if you're Arsenal, but he's also Arsenal. He's an Arsenal fan. So anyway, all right.
I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I need you to translate East London for me, basically. Yeah. Anyway, it's a good point, right? It's a good point. Listen, I don't know. We're grammar not my strongest. Cheers, man. Listen, while we're at it on that point, this is important, right? Like, what do you guys think? Very reflecting very quickly on the fact that the window closed, we didn't sign anyone. Boo-hoo. There's a school of thought which essentially says that a number of our targets are going to be in their last 6 months when we get to January, and that puts us in an incredibly strong bargaining position in January. do you see, again, more analysis into that? I think we've got 10. Six, so there's 6. Yeah, there's something like, what is it? There's is it 9? So effectively, there's about, I think, 7 Premier League games until the World Cup.
I think it's
and
9.
Yeah,
I could
and
be
then
wrong.
I think you're right.
Sorry.
So I think there's 7 until the World Cup, and then 2 between the World Cup and the New Year.
Oh, okay.
So I
more
think there's
than that,
9 in.
surely.
No, there's not that many. There's not that many
9.
Premier League games.
Okay.
No, so I think it's 9 in total before January, but I think the thing dissects it. So I might be wrong,
Right.
but there's 2 in between the World Cup and January, basically. Point is, there's the school of thought saying that we think that our squad can manage through that period, whatever, and then January we are going to try and get a couple of these targets in. Do you guys see that happening?
I think January will be it will be different, whether because of the World Cup. I don't know if that will be it's more active or less active, but I can see if loads of players come back and they're injured, then it might force players into action. But maybe there are some players who get minutes in the World Cup who wouldn't normally get a game for their club, and they actually think we could use this player now, and it might change things. I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those where we have to wait and see.
I don't think we'll make the mistake, arguably the mistake we made last time round, where we didn't strengthen. I think if everything points to us being in a top 4 race this season, and if we're there or thereabouts, which we should be, I can fully see us. I can fully see us strengthening the squad, and there were obvious targets that we were going for. It might not be the kind of attacking player, the Rafinha type player that everyone wants us to sign, because getting a player like that done in January is very difficult. But doing a Douglas Luiz type signing is much more likely. And I think, you're going to have a lot of games post World Cup fatigue. We've got a lot of international players, so a lot of players are going to come back tired, and I think we're going to need a little bit of a squad boost and a bit of a bolstering, especially in midfield, it looks like at the moment. So I can definitely see us doing some business, and I think it's quite interesting, Raj, because you mentioned that we didn't sign anyone, and the Douglas Luiz one on deadline day was for me, that felt like we obviously had a bit of a ceiling in terms of how much we wanted to spend on him, and it was kind of I don't know. Do you guys think that you sign Douglas Luiz, you try and get top 4, your Europa League team or Europa League club, you try and get top 4. If you get top 4, is Douglas Luiz a Champions League player? So do you think they looked at it and thought, he might help you get top 4, but do you think they looked at it and thought, well, if we can sign this guy, and he might be good player, solid player, but then once we get to Champions League,
good point.
We're holding on to him.
I think they basically saw him as the new El Neni for us long term. The 5-year El Neni, which is the guy who's going to come in the cup games with a bit more of a higher ceiling, because he can play regularly in the Premier League and do it.
Still young.
Yeah, he's still young, can improve, but that squad midfielder for the next 5 years, and that's okay. You need a couple of those, right?
So I think, Mize, actually, it is kind of exactly what you say, and more so, I think they might look at it and kind of go, the more money we save, the more money we'd have to spend next summer, and if we have faith that this squad could make top 4 next summer, then we've got money in a Champions League market, right? So, because of what we've seen, I think what's really interesting is when you look at transfers, the value and the price of players is not commensurate as to whether these are Champions League players or not. So, for example, the top clubs are signing players for 30, 40, 50 million sometimes, right? And you have teams in the Europa League, Newcastle signing Isak or whatever, big money. Because ultimately, some of these very top players, they only want to go to a few clubs. Right? And so actually sometimes it becomes difficult to get them because of their wages as well. So, you have to bring the fees down, etc. So, that 25 million could go a longer way, if we're playing Champions League football. So I wonder if they factored that in, and maybe, then if we qualify for the Champions League, it's a big summer where they kind of just go, right, bang, let's really throw our money in.
Yeah.
Do you know whose contract expires in the summer?
For us, or-
Lionel Messi.
I was sarcastically just going to say like Messi. I don't think you would.
Messi's contract is up.
Can he play?
Never played in the
different
Premier
field?
League. London, final swan song. Come on, man. It makes sense. It makes sense. You know, it makes sense. All right, listen. We have recorded for an hour and 20 minutes. This is one of our longest episodes, but it was worth it. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed doing this.
The comments and the questions were really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Interaction.
So thank you.
Normally it's just talking to you two, so yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Exactly, mate. What the hell?
Bring back Nero. Bring back Nero.
Yeah, one of the arseholics actually went to the United game. Nero.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him since. Did he make it back all right? Or...
Probably still there.
We're still there on a massive bender. Everyone, listen. Like, for those of you who are still here, like, thanks a lot for joining us. I really appreciate your support. In all seriousness, the people who have been commenting are the people who have basically been here since the start, like family, friends, a lot of you guys. So this is for you lot. Oh my god, he's still talking. Tisha,
I've got to put it up.
Okay,
it's the last comment of the day.
Right, I've skimmed to the last word. Is he trying to say Bellerin or what?
Yeah,
so we could sign more players if we were good at offloading players for money. We should be able to get at least 10 million for. Oh, he's saying Bellerin. He said, okay,
Bellerin,
look, this is look. We could. I think. Do you know what? Can we save that question, because that is a real big question. Arsenal fans are so divided about that question. I personally am of the opposing opinion to Tish. I actually really do feel that that there are good reasons. There are good reasons why we end up not being able to get that much money for some of the players that we have got rid of in the past. And just quickly on Bellerin, I think partly that's because he's one of the highest paid players at the club, and there's not that many clubs that would take him on those wages. And actually, when you're a player and you only want to go to one country, it doesn't necessarily help. But I think that there is a topic in there that we should explore, right? Around how good the management team have been doing offloading players, because we should also take some, we should accept maybe there is some criticism to be had. Chan, catch you at the Everton game, mate. I can't go. This is the first home game I'm missing this season. It's my wife's birthday and my father-in-law's birthday that day, so we're having a little birthday thing. But you two boys will be there, right? Myers, Aaron, and you'll be there.
We will.
We will.
So they will see you there. All right, guys. Thank you, boys. Thank you, everyone, for listening in and watching us. It was great fun. And listen, let's bounce back with 2 wins this week. That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Indeed.
See you later, everyone. We should be winning. Yes.
See you later, boys.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Take it easy. Bye.